I didn't know my babies could die inside me until the guard told me to stop screaming. Quick question before we continue. Where are you watching this from? Drop your country in the comments. Now, let me tell you what happened that night, because I still wake up sometimes thinking I imagined it all. But the scars on my belly tell me it was real. My name is Amara, and 6 months ago I was 22 years old, 7 months pregnant with triplets, and locked in a holding cell at county detention for something I didn't do. That's not what this story is about, though. This story is about the 37 hours I spent convinced my babies were dying, and the man who appeared out of nowhere and changed everything. It started 3 days before, when I was arrested outside the campus library. They said I matched the description of someone who'd stolen laptops from the computer lab. I tried to explain I was a scholarship student, that I'd never even been inside that lab because my program didn't require it, that I was 7 months pregnant and could barely walk to class without stopping to catch my breath. But the officer who cuffed me didn't care about any of that. He saw a young black woman in an oversized hoodie, and that was enough. They took me to county, told me I'd be processed and released within hours once they sorted out the mistake. But hours became a day became 2. And by the 3rd day, I'd missed 2 prenatal appointments. My scholarship housing had locked me out for non-payment because I couldn't access my account, and my body was sending me signals I'd learned to recognize as warnings. The cramping started around midnight on that 3rd day. Not the normal tightness I'd been feeling for weeks, but something sharp and rhythmic, like my body was trying to tear itself apart from the inside. I'd been sleeping on the concrete bench in the cell, my jacket rolled under my head, when the first real contraction hit. It felt like someone had reached inside me and twisted. I sat up, breathing through my mouth the way they'd taught me in the free prenatal class at the community center. The pain passed. I waited. 15 minutes later, it came again, stronger this time. Then 12 minutes, then 8. I knew what this meant. I'd read every pregnancy book the library had. I'd watched every YouTube video on preterm labor. 7 months was too early, especially for triplets. Their lungs weren't ready. Their hearts weren't ready. They needed more time. I pressed the call button on the wall. Nothing happened. I pressed it again, holding it down until my thumb went numb. Still nothing. The pain came again, and this time I couldn't breathe through it. I doubled over, my forehead touching the cold concrete, and I screamed. Not a horror movie scream, not a dramatic scream, just a raw, animal sound that came from somewhere deeper than my throat. The kind of scream that means something is very, very wrong. A guard appeared at the bars 20 minutes later, male, middle-aged, bored expression. He looked at me the way you'd look at a dog barking in the distance. "What's the problem?" he asked. "I'm in labor," I managed between contractions. "I need to go to the hospital, now. My babies." "You're not in labor. Labor's when the baby comes out. You're just having cramps. Happens all the time with you pregnant girls. You'll be fine." "I'm carrying triplets," I said, and I hated how my voice cracked. 7 months, they're premature. If they come now without medical help, they'll die. Please, please, I'm begging you." "I'll make a note in the system," he said, already turning away. "Someone will check on you during the next round." He left. The next round was 4 hours away. I want you to understand something about those 4 hours. Time stopped working the way it's supposed to. Each contraction felt like drowning. The spaces between them felt like waiting to drown again. I couldn't lie down because the pressure was unbearable. I couldn't stand because my legs wouldn't hold me. I ended up on my hands and knees on that concrete floor, rocking back and forth, counting seconds because it was the only thing keeping me sane. 1, 2, 3, 4. My babies are still alive. 5, 6, 7, 8. God, please let them still be alive. Somewhere around hour 3, I felt wetness between my legs. Not the full break I'd read about, but enough to know something had ruptured, enough to know time was running out. I screamed again. I screamed until my throat was raw. I screamed names of guards I'd heard in the hallway. I screamed that I was bleeding, that my water broke, that my babies were dying. A different guard came this time. Female, younger, but with the same dead expression. She looked at me through the bars like I was a TV show she couldn't turn off. "The nurse will see you in the morning," she said. Morning? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It's 3 a.m. now. Morning could be 6 hours away. My babies don't have 6 hours. Please, you can see I'm not making this up. Look at me, please. She actually looked uncomfortable for a moment, almost human. Then her face hardened again. "I don't make the rules," she said. "The nurse comes at 9 a.m. That's when medical gets here. Until then, you have to wait." "They'll be dead by 9 a.m., I whispered. She walked away. I need to tell you something about that moment. There's a specific kind of helplessness that comes from knowing exactly what's about to happen and being completely powerless to stop it. It's not like fear. Fear is when you don't know what's coming. This was worse. This was certainty without control. I knew my babies were in distress. I knew every minute without medical intervention decreased their chances of survival. I knew I was trapped in a concrete box while they slowly died inside me. And I knew nobody cared. The contractions kept coming, closer together now. 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I lost the ability to count between them. My mind started doing something strange, splitting apart, like I was watching myself from above. I saw a young woman on a cell floor, her hands on her belly, her lips moving in prayer or pleading, I couldn't tell which. I saw 3 tiny hearts beating inside her, getting weaker. I saw a system that had decided she didn't matter enough to break protocol for. Around 4:30 a.m., I felt something shift, a pressure, low and urgent, like my body had given up waiting for permission and was moving forward on its own. I knew this feeling from the books. This was transition. This was the point where the babies would start coming whether anyone was ready or not. I screamed again. Not words this time, just sound. The kind of sound that should bring people running. The kind of sound that means life or death. Nobody came. I started talking to my babies, out loud, my voice hoarse and breaking. "Stay in there," I begged them. "Please, just stay put, just a little longer. Help is coming. It has to be coming. Just don't come out yet. You're not ready. The world's not ready for you yet. Please, babies, please." I named them in that moment. I hadn't wanted to name them before they were safely born, some superstitious part of me afraid it would jinx things. But if these were our last hours together, they deserved names. "Grace," I whispered to baby A, the one lowest down, the one I could feel pressing against my cervix. "You're my Grace." "Faith," I said to baby B, always the quiet one during ultrasounds, tucked up under my ribs. "You're my faith." "Hope," I breathed to baby C, the smallest, the one the doctors had warned me might not make it. "You're my hope, and you're going to make it. All of you are going to make it. You hear me?" But I didn't believe my own words anymore. Around 5:15 a.m., I felt Grace move lower, too low. I knew without being told that she was crowning. My body was pushing without my permission and I was powerless to stop it. I tried to hold her in, actually pressed my hand between my legs trying to hold my daughter inside me, but biology doesn't care about desperation. That's when I started screaming different words. She's coming! The baby's coming! Somebody help me! Please, she's coming out! I heard footsteps running. Finally, someone was coming. But when the guard reached my cell, he didn't open the door. He just stared at me, his face going pale, and then he ran the other direction, yelling into his radio. I was alone again. Grace was coming, and I was alone. I want to tell you I was brave in that moment. I want to tell you I stayed calm and remembered my breathing techniques and prepared to deliver my own baby on a jail cell floor. But the truth is, I broke apart. I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. I begged a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. I apologized to my babies for being poor, for being black, for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, for not mattering enough to save. And then I heard something that didn't make sense. Voices, lots of them, shouting. Not the bored, procedural voices of the guards, but urgent voices, angry voices. One voice louder than all the others. Open it now. I don't care about procedure. Open this door right now, or I will personally ensure every person in this facility is unemployed by sunrise. The voice was male, deep, authoritative in a way that didn't need volume. The kind of voice that people listen to because not listening isn't an option. I heard keys. The cell door slammed open, and suddenly there were people everywhere. Guards, someone in a paramedic uniform, and a man in an expensive suit that looked completely absurd in that place. He was black, maybe 45, with silver at his temples and the kind of face you see on magazine covers. But what I noticed most were his eyes. They found mine immediately, and they weren't looking at me the way the guards had. He was seeing me, actually seeing me. Amara, he said, and I wondered how he knew my name. We're getting you out of here, right now. My babies, I gasped. They're coming. Grace is… I can't… I know, he said, kneeling beside me without any concern for his suit on that filthy floor. I know. That's why I'm here. We're going to take care of you. All of you. The paramedics lifted me onto a stretcher. I screamed as another contraction hit, this one so powerful I thought I might split in half. Through the haze of pain, I heard the man in the suit talking rapid fire into his phone. I need 3 NICU teams standing by. Yes, 3. Triplets at approximately 29 weeks. Mother in active labor. ETA 12 minutes. A pause. I don't care if you need to wake the entire pediatric department. My children are being born tonight, and every resource in this hospital better be waiting when we arrive. My children. Those words cut through the pain. I stared at him as they wheeled me out of the cell, down corridors that blurred together, into the cold night air where an ambulance waited with doors already open. What? I tried to ask, but another contraction stole my words. He climbed into the ambulance with me, ignoring the paramedic's protest. He took my hand, and his hand was warm and steady, and I held onto it like it was the only real thing in the world. Focus on breathing, he told me. We can talk after. Right now, just breathe. Who are you? I managed. My name is Marcus Shaw, and those 3 babies you're about to have, they're mine. The ambulance started moving. Through the haze of pain and shock, I tried to make sense of his words. Marcus Shaw. The name meant something. I'd heard it before. Where? The university? No. The news. Marcus Shaw, founder of Shaw Technologies. Marcus Shaw, the billionaire who donated $50 million to local hospitals. Marcus Shaw, whose face had been on the cover of Forbes 3 months ago. That's impossible, I whispered. We never. 8 months ago, he said quietly. The tech conference at the Meridian Hotel. You were working catering that night to pay for textbooks. We talked in the service hallway during your break. You were reading a book on molecular biology, and I asked what you were studying. We talked for 2 hours. You remember? I remembered. God help me, I remembered every minute of that night. He'd been so different from anyone I'd ever met. Not because of his money or his success, but because he'd listened to me talk about my dreams like they mattered. He'd asked about my research ideas. He'd told me about the science programs his foundation funded. And when the conference ended and I had to go back to work, he'd asked if he could see me again. We'd met 3 more times over 2 weeks. Coffee shops where he wore baseball caps and nobody recognized him. Late-night diners where we were the only customers. He never made me feel less than, never acted like the gulf between our worlds existed. And then one night in his hotel room, when talking turned to touching, and touching turned to more. You disappeared, I said. The next morning, your number didn't work. I went back to the hotel and they said you'd checked out. I thought. I had to fly to Singapore for an emergency acquisition, he said. I tried to call you. I tried everything. But the number you'd given me was a campus phone that got disconnected. I had your first name and your major and the university. But do you know how many students fit that description? I've been looking for you for 8 months, Amara. 8 months. But how did you find me tonight? I never stopped searching. I had people monitoring hospital admits, clinic check-ins, anywhere a pregnant woman your age might show up. 2 days ago, your name flagged in the county jail system. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe you were locked up. When I found out you were pregnant, his voice cracked. When I found out you'd been there for 3 days in labor with nobody helping you. Another contraction hit, the strongest yet. I screamed and he held my hand tighter, his other hand on my belly like he could protect them from the outside. Almost there, the paramedic said. 2 minutes. Did you know? Marcus asked, suddenly, urgently. Did you know you were carrying triplets? Did you know they were mine? I knew about the triplets, found out at 12 weeks, but I never knew how to reach you. And even if I did, I looked at him, really looked at him. What was I supposed to do? Call a billionaire and tell him the girl who served him cheese plates was pregnant? Who would believe me? Who would care? I would have cared, he said fiercely. I have cared. Every single day since I lost track of you, I've cared. Do you understand what I'm telling you? You're not alone in this. You were never supposed to be alone in this. The ambulance stopped. The doors flew open. We were at a hospital entrance, but not the emergency room. This was something else, a private entrance with a team of maybe 20 people waiting. Doctors, nurses, NICU specialists, all of them moving with precision the moment my stretcher hit the ground. Grace is crowning, I heard myself say as they rushed me through automatic doors. My first baby, Grace. She's coming now. We've got her, a woman in scrubs said, her voice calm and sure. We've got all of them. You did so good, Mama. You held on. Now let us help. They transferred me to a surgical table in a bright, sterile room. Someone put a mask over my face. Someone else was checking monitors. A doctor was between my legs, her face focused. Baby A is in distress, the doctor announced. Heart rate dropping. We need to get her out now. Push, someone coached me. On the next contraction, push. I pushed. I pushed with everything I had left, which wasn't much. I pushed thinking about the concrete cell floor where Grace almost died before she could live. I pushed thinking about Marcus's hand in mine. I pushed thinking about 3 babies who deserved better than the start they were getting. And then I heard it. A tiny, angry cry. Baby A is out, the doctor said. It's a girl. 2 pounds, 4 ounces. NICU team, she's yours. I tried to see her, but they'd already whisked her away to some warming station I couldn't see. But I heard her. My Grace was crying, which meant she was breathing, which meant she was alive. 2 more, the doctor said. Let's keep going, Mom. Your body knows what to do. But my body was exhausted. The contractions were still coming, but I couldn't find the strength to push anymore. I felt myself starting to drift, everything getting fuzzy at the edges. Amara, Marcus's voice right by my ear. When had he come in? Were billionaires allowed in operating rooms? Stay with me. Faith and hope are waiting. They need you to finish this. I can't, I whispered. I'm so tired. I know you are. But you're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived 3 days in hell for them. You held them inside you when your body wanted to give up. You've got 20 more minutes in you. I know you do. I wanted to tell him he was wrong. I wanted to close my eyes and sleep for a year. But then I felt it. Movement inside me. Faith shifting position. Faith trying to find her way out. I pushed. 15 minutes later, Faith arrived. 2 pounds, 1 ounce. Another tiny cry, weaker than Grace's, but there. Alive. Last one, the doctor said. Baby C. This one's smaller. We need to be careful. Hope. My Hope, who wasn't supposed to make it, who'd been the smallest on every ultrasound, the one the doctors had prepared me might not survive. Come on, Hope. It's time. Come meet your sisters. The final contractions were the hardest, or maybe I was just running on fumes. But 8 minutes after Faith, Hope slipped into the world at 1 pound, 14 ounces. For a horrible moment, she didn't cry. The room went silent except for the beeping of monitors. I saw the NICU team swarming her warming station, saw rapid movements I couldn't interpret. And then, so faint I almost missed it, a tiny mewling sound, like a kitten, like life insisting on itself despite everything. She's breathing, someone announced. We've got her. All 3 are stable. We need to get them to the NICU now, Mom, but you did it. All 3 of your daughters are here. I started crying. Not the desperate, broken sobs from the cell. These were different tears. Relief and exhaustion and disbelief that we'd actually made it. All 4 of us, against odds that had seemed impossible hours ago. Can I see them before they go? They brought them over, one by one, bundled in blankets, their tiny faces barely visible under oxygen masks. Grace first, already with the fiery personality I'd felt her whole pregnancy. Faith, calmer, her eyes closed peacefully. And Hope, so impossibly small she barely looked real. Hello, my girls. I'm your mom. I'm sorry your first night was so hard. It's going to be better now. I promise. They took the babies away to the NICU. Marcus stayed. As the doctors worked on delivering the placentas and checking me, he pulled a chair next to the bed and just sat there, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. You need to rest, he finally said. I need answers, I replied. What happens now? Those babies need equipment I can't afford, care I can't pay for. I lost my housing, I might lose my scholarship, and there's still the charges. The charges are dropped, he interrupted. They arrested the actual thief 6 hours after they took you in. A lawyer from my firm has been working since midnight to get the paperwork processed. You're not a criminal, Amara. You never were. But the medical bills, taken care of. My housing, I've arranged a place, close to the hospital so you can be near the girls. It's yours for as long as you need. And my scholarship? I made some calls to the university president. We've known each other for years. Your scholarship is secure. You'll be able to continue your studies on your own timeline. Whenever you're ready. I stared at him. You can't just fix everything with money and phone calls. Watch me, he said simply. Those are my daughters in that NICU, Amara. They're my responsibility. And he stopped, choosing his words carefully. You carried them for 7 months alone. You fought for them when nobody else would. You deserve support, not more struggle. I don't need you to save me, I said. And I meant it, even though everything in my situation screamed otherwise. I'm not some charity case. No, he agreed. You're the mother of my children. That's not charity, that's family. Family. The word hung in the air between us. We barely knew each other. A few coffee dates and one night 8 months ago didn't make a family. But 3 tiny premature babies fighting for life in the next room? That complicated things. I don't know what this is supposed to look like, I admitted. I don't know how to be in your world. I'm not asking you to be in my world, Marcus said. I'm asking if I can be part of yours, part of theirs. I want to know my daughters, Amara. I want them to know me, not as some distant figure who writes checks, but as their father. And he paused, I want to know you again, if you'll let me. I don't trust easy, I said. Not anymore. I know. You shouldn't. Not after tonight. Not after what they did to you. His jaw tightened. I'm going to make sure everyone involved in that answers for it, by the way. Every guard who ignored you, every official who let you sit in that cell for 3 days while pregnant, they don't get to walk away from this. That won't change what happened. No, he agreed, but it might prevent it from happening to someone else. The doctor came back then, interrupting us. She explained that I'd need to stay for at least 48 hours for monitoring, that the babies would be in the NICU for at least 6 weeks, possibly 12 depending on their progress, that there would be complications and scary moments and a long road ahead. But they were alive. We all were alive, and that had seemed impossible just hours ago. Marcus stayed with me that whole first night. He made phone calls from the chair by my bed, to his company, explaining he'd be unavailable for the foreseeable future, to lawyers, starting the process of holding people accountable, to his family, I gathered from the snippets I heard, telling them they had 3 new family members. Around dawn, a nurse came to take me to the NICU in a wheelchair. The babies had been stable through the night. They wanted me to try skin-to-skin contact, something called kangaroo care that helped preemies regulate their temperature and breathing. They brought Grace out first, still attached to what seemed like a dozen wires and tubes, and placed her on my bare chest. She was so small, so impossibly, heartbreakingly small, but she was warm and alive, and I could feel her tiny heart beating against mine. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered. "I'm here. Mama's here now." Marcus stood beside us, his hand on my shoulder, looking down at our daughter with an expression of absolute wonder. "She has your nose," he said softly. "She has your stubborn chin," I replied. We did the same with faith and hope over the next hour, my 3 miracles, each one perfect and fragile and fierce in their own way. And as I sat there with Hope against my chest, Hope, who wasn't supposed to make it, who'd been the smallest and weakest, I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Not happiness exactly, we weren't there yet, but something like the possibility of happiness, something like a future I didn't have to face alone. "Thank you," I told Marcus, "for finding me, for coming when you did. I should have found you sooner. I should have tried harder. If I had—" "Don't," I interrupted. "We can't live in the should-haves. We're here now. They're here now. That has to be enough." He nodded slowly. "So what do we do now?" "Now?" I looked down at Hope, her tiny fingers curled against my skin. Now we take it one day at a time, one feeding, one milestone, one small victory. And us? Us happens slowly, if it happens at all. I need to know you're here for them, not because you feel guilty or obligated, but because you want to be. And I need time to trust that. That's fair, he said. I can work with slowly. I'm good at long-term investments. I almost smiled at that. Is that what we are, an investment? You're everything, he said simply. You just don't know it yet. The weeks that followed were brutal. The NICU became my second home. I learned the sounds of the monitors, the names of every nurse and doctor, the terrifying vocabulary of prematurity, bradycardia, apnea, jaundice, feeding tubes, oxygen saturation. There were setbacks. Grace needed surgery for a heart defect. Faith had an infection that put her on strong antibiotics. Hope stopped breathing twice and had to be resuscitated. But there were victories, too. The first time Grace opened her eyes and seemed to see me. The day Faith reached 3 pounds. The moment Hope's oxygen levels stayed stable without assistance for 12 hours straight. Marcus was there for all of it. Not hovering, not taking over, but present. He'd arrive at the hospital before dawn and stay past midnight. He learned to change diapers the size of his palm. He read to them from textbooks, his and mine, because studies showed preemies responded well to their parents' voices. He held them for hours while I slept in the chair beside the isolate, exhausted from pumping breast milk every 3 hours and trying to keep up with my coursework remotely. We fell into a rhythm, the two of us. Not a romantic rhythm, I'd meant what I said about taking things slow, but a partnership. Co-parents learning each other through late-night feedings and whispered conversations while our daughters slept. He told me about growing up poor, about his single mother who'd worked 3 jobs, about the scholarship that changed his life, and the guilt he'd carried for leaving that world behind. I told him about my own mother, gone to cancer when I was 16, about raising myself through high school while living with an aunt who resented every bite of food I ate, about the determination that had gotten me to university, and the fear that I'd lose it all. You're going to finish your degree, he told me one night, around week 4. Not because I'm insisting on it, but because you've worked too hard to stop now. With triplets? Be realistic. I am being realistic. You'll have help. I've hired a nanny. Before you argue, she's for when you're in class or studying, not to replace you. And I've set up an education fund that should cover everything through your PhD if you want it. I can't accept. It's not for you, he interrupted gently. It's for them. My daughters deserve a mother who achieves her dreams. That's the example I want them to see. A woman who doesn't quit, even when the universe tries to make her. 8 weeks after that terrible night, the doctors finally said the words I'd been desperate to hear. You can take them home. Home turned out to be a brownstone Marcus had rented in a quiet neighborhood halfway between the hospital and campus. It was too nice, too big, too much. But when I walked in and saw the nursery he'd set up with 3 cribs and a rocking chair and a wall painted with stars, I couldn't find it in myself to argue. This is temporary, I told him, until I figure out my own situation. This is home, he corrected, for as long as you want it to be. The first night with all 3 babies outside the hospital was chaos. They woke up every 90 minutes, staggered enough that someone was always crying. I was exhausted and terrified and convinced I was doing everything wrong. But Marcus was there, taking the 2 a.m. feeding so I could sleep, heating bottles and changing diapers, and walking the floor with Faith when she wouldn't settle. Around 4 a.m., with Hope finally asleep on my chest, and Grace and Faith in their cribs, I found him standing in the nursery doorway watching us. What? I asked. Just memorizing this, he said, in case I wake up and it's a dream. If it's a dream, we're both having it. He came and sat beside the rocking chair. I know we're taking things slow, I know you need time, but I need you to know something. What? That night at the hotel, 8 months ago, I didn't see it as a one-night thing. I saw it as the beginning of something. And then you were gone, and I thought I'd lost my chance. But now, he gestured at the nursery, at our sleeping daughters. Now, we have 3 more chances. 3 reasons to figure this out. You don't owe me anything, I said quietly. Just because we have kids together doesn't mean we have to be together. I know, but what if I want to be? Not because of obligation or guilt, but because that conversation in the service hallway 8 months ago was the best conversation I'd had in years. Because you're brilliant and fierce, and you survived something that would have broken most people. What if I want this? All of it? I looked at him for a long moment. At this man who'd crashed into my life like a miracle at the worst possible moment, who used his power and resources to save us when no one else would, who showed up day after day, learning to be a father to 3 tiny humans he'd barely known existed. Then I guess we take it one day at a time, I said finally, just like we've been doing, and we see where it goes. I can work with that, he said. 3 months later, Grace said her first word, Mama. 2 weeks after that, Faith started sleeping through the night. Hope, our little fighter, gained enough weight to finally be in the normal range for her age. I aced my midterms, Marcus stepped back from his company to be more present, and slowly, carefully, we built something that looked like a family. I'd love to tell you it was perfect. It wasn't. There were arguments about parenting styles and money and whose turn it was to wake up for the 3 a.m. feeding. There were moments when I resented his ease with resources I'd never have. There were nights when he didn't understand why I wouldn't just let him fix everything. But there were also mornings waking up to 3 smiling babies. There were evenings watching Marcus on the floor with them, making ridiculous faces until they laughed. There were quiet moments after they'd all fallen asleep, when we'd sit together and just breathe, grateful that we'd made it through another day. And there was the day, 6 months after they came home, when he asked me to dinner, just us, no babies, no crisis, no hospital, and I said yes. 1 year after that terrible night in the cell, I stood in the NICU where my daughters had fought for their lives and cut the ribbon on the Marcus and Amara Shaw Premature Birth Center. We'd donated $10 million to expand the facility, to ensure no other mother would have to watch her babies struggle without the best possible care. During the ceremony, a reporter asked me what I wanted people to know about that night. I thought about it for a long moment, about the guards who'd ignored my screams, about the system that had decided my babies' lives weren't worth breaking protocol for, about the desperation that still woke me up sometimes in the middle of the night. But I also thought about Grace, Faith, and Hope, now 15 months old, healthy and thriving, currently at home with their nanny, and probably causing delightful chaos. About Marcus, who'd become not just their father, but my partner in every sense of the word. About the degree I was on track to finish next semester. About the second chance we'd all been given. I want people to know that you can survive the worst night of your life, I said finally. That help can come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the things that break you are the same things that show you how strong you really are. That night, after the ceremony, after the speeches and photos and handshakes, we went home. Our home. Marcus made dinner while I gave the girls their bath. We read them stories and tucked them into their cribs. And then we sat on the couch, exhausted and content, his arm around me, my head on his shoulder. Do you ever think about that night? He asked quietly. Every day, I admitted, but not the way you'd think. I don't relive the trauma anymore. I remember that it brought you back to me. It gave us this. I wish I'd found you sooner, he said. I wish you'd never had to go through that alone. But I didn't go through it alone, I reminded him. You came, right when we needed you most. that counts for something. It counts for everything, he said. From the nursery, we heard a small cry, Hope, probably, having one of her nightmares. We both stood up automatically, years of practice making us move in sync. But before we went to her, Marcus caught my hand. I love you, he said quietly. I should have said it sooner, but I love you. All of you. I love you too, I replied, and meant it more than I'd meant anything in my life. We went to comfort our daughter together, the way we did everything now. The concrete cell and the desperate screaming felt like another life, something that happened to a different version of me in a different world. This version, standing in a nursery at midnight, holding my daughter while the man I loved settled her sisters. This was who I'd become. And somehow, impossibly, I was grateful for all of it.